So as more information about Battlefield 5 is released, we get more and more details about the upcoming maps available at launch. So for today's episode of Battlefield 5 in detail, I wanted to go over all the maps we'll see at launch, as well as covering some of the real life detail of the maps we'll see. So firstly, we'll start off with Narvik, which is the first of the two maps we'll see in the Norwegian conflict, and this is one of the two maps we saw in the beta. Set in the Arctic Fjord in Norway, the real battle took place in the town of Narvik, which was on a vital iron supply route that was valuable to both the Allies and the Axis at the start of the war. So the second Norwegian map, I believe, is called Fjell. If not, then please tell me down in the comments. I couldn't find a proper translation for it or pronunciation, so I'm having to go with what I assume it is. This map, though, is the second stage of the Norwegian Grand Operation conflict and takes place in the hills above Narvik. This one will be a smaller map designed to be more infantry focused compared to Narvik, and honestly this one seems pretty cool. It's the top of the hill and there's a little fortress on top, and I can definitely see this being a very beautiful map. Now in reality, the real Fjell fortress is on Sorta Island, which is around 660 miles away from Narvik. Now presumably what's happening is that DICE are naming something else Fjell fortress or Fjell, just in the assumption that players don't really care about the location of the two places as long as they're both in Norway. So then next up we have the two Dutch maps, the first of which is called Rotterdam. Now Rotterdam was the other map we had in the beta and obviously takes place in the Dutch city of Rotterdam. Now at the start of the war, the city was very poorly defended, so there wasn't really a lot of fighting. Initially only a few German squads fought against the Dutch army for the city. The Dutch would eventually surrender after a few days of heavy bombing which nearly destroyed the entire city. So tying into that, the second map of Rotterdam is called Devastation. The map is essentially just Rotterdam but after a bunch of bombing, hence the name Devastation. Now we do know this map takes place further into the city, but possibly with some crossover in terms of location. We have seen some screenshots and trailer clips from this map, and we can work out that the church in those trailers and pictures is the St. Laurensker Church. Again, I might be wrong in that pronunciation, but it's all I can go off. Now we know the church is going to be the centerpiece of the map, and in fact from the Rotterdam map, using spectator mode, you can actually see the church from the Rotterdam map itself, which is similar to what we had in Operations, where you can see the next map along off in the distance. And of course Devastation is part 2 of the Dutch Grand Operation, so presumably there's some kind of bombing that happens and then you move on to the days 3 and possibly 4. Now as you can see from the images, Devastation really is a fitting name. There's a lot of rubble, a lot of small fires and damaged buildings. It's not quite to the extent of the real life Rotterdam, which was basically entirely leveled after most of the bombing, but it still looks pretty cool. So then next up we have a map called Hamada, which is apparently a massive vehicle focused map. There was initially a rumour that battleships were on the map and they would have a big impact, but that was recently debunked by some DICE developers. So Hamada takes place in North Africa during the early conflicts in Africa and takes place somewhere between modern Libya and Egypt. We do have a work in progress overview of this map showing off its incredible size, as there's round about 1,500 meters from the spawn to the current position of the player. There's also a small marker just in front of the player towards the direction that they're facing, and that marker is apparently 500 meters away and is the G flag. So you can really understand how massive this map is. There's also an airstrip in the top right corner of the map, which once again gives you an idea of how big this map is if that's the size of the airstrip. So the next map is called Aerodrome and is also set in North Africa. This is obviously the second part of the African Grand Operation, and Aerodrome is one of the smaller maps we'll see at launch. Now in short, this map is essentially just a bombed out airfield. As far as we know, this map is only infantry, which probably means it's going to be the Battlefield 5 equivalent of Operation Locker. DICE always seem to include some kind of map that is infantry only and is based upon flat soil landscapes, and this map could be pretty cool as long as the airbase is big enough. We don't have any details about where it is or exactly what kind of base it is. We just know that it's called Aerodrome and that it is an airbase in North Africa. So then lastly we have the two French maps, the first of which is called Twisted Steel. Now this is the map we saw at the initial reveal of the game, as it features a massive steel bridge. Now allegedly this is the largest map we'll see in Battlefield 5 at launch, other than the Firestorm Battle Royale map, and we do know that the bridge is the largest model structure in Battlefield history. Now obviously there have been massive dams and large buildings before, but the bridge will be the true centerpiece of the map, with presumably 3 objectives on it, one at either end and then one in the middle, volatile, and it's also highly destructible. So then lastly we have Arras, which is the second French map available, and that means of course it will be the last map available in the French Grand Operation. The city of Arras is a real city in the north of France, near the Belgian border. The city was a landmark for both armies, and therefore was vital for securing control in France. However, this map does not take place in the city and is actually set just outside in a small nearby town with several surrounding fields. A key design feature of this map is the very distinct yellow field which can be seen in this work in progress overview, and personally this is the one that I'm most interested in. I think Hamada looks the best, but this one looks really quite pretty, and I'm not sure why they called it Arras if it's not in the city, but presumably it's just tying into the Battle of Arras. So all in all, I think Hamada seems the coolest. Aerodrome could also be a good map, but I do think the two French maps are going to be the most interesting and enjoyable to play on. So what do you think of the maps available at launch? There is of course only 8 of them, and they're all on screen right now, and honestly I'm not sure how I feel about there only being 8. I think Battlefield 1 had 9 and then Battlefield 4 had 10, so we're just going down and down. Obviously the DLC is going to be free at launch, but I do wonder why is there no maps from Belgium, why is nothing from Poland. I don't know if DICE just consider there not enough combat to make a map, but honestly I think it's strange there's only 8. We could honestly get more than that, but again, the DLC is free this year, so we're going to get more no matter what happens. So regardless of that, hopefully you guys did enjoy. Tell me your thought down below in the comments, and I'll be sure to check them out. Once again, hopefully you did enjoy the video, and I'll see you next time.